We are doing a series of interviews with each other here at the Ministry of Pop Culture, where we explore each of our journeys into actually being people who professionally write about pop culture because it is a really great job and we are very lucky. And we want to share that with other people as much as possible and hope that it will be a little bit informative and certainly fun. So, first, we are talking to Saul Austerlitz. Why don't you kind of tell us? I mean, I know, and probably a lot of our readers even know, but how would you describe what you kind of do now as your job?
So yeah, I get to kind of cover the waterfront on popular culture and write about movies and television and books and sometimes popular music. And the nice thing about writing with Ministry of Pop Culture is not having to run things by an editor, getting to pick your own topics that you're excited about, your own passions, the whatever it is that's kind of appealing to you, whether it's something that came out 5 minutes ago or something that came out 10 years ago. And yeah, that's really, I think, one of the most enjoyable parts of what I get to do at the moment. And, it's a combination of the sort of shorter pieces that we do at ministry and then also longer form stuff like books.
And you also teach at NYU.
I do.
Tell us what you teach.
I teach two writing courses there, so there's a lot of overlap in the various hats that I wear. And I get to work with students who are interested in writing about popular culture, doing, sort of less academic, more uh, cultural critic type writing. And it's tremendously enjoyable and fun. And I learn so much from my students. This is now my 11th year teaching there. And, you know, as a person who is well into middle age at this point, it's sometimes hard to get super enthusiastic about everything or feel like everything is brand new and fresh and exciting. And getting to work with students who are just discovering what culture can be or what the sort of greatest works are, or realizing how excited they are at the prospect of getting to write or getting to create. It's tremendously enlivening and it just fills me with the enthusiasm that sometimes I'm missing otherwise. And students are so smart and so engaged with the world, and it's just remarkable to get the chance to work with them.
They're also like our secret focus group slash fount of ideas. I feel like often you get to have extra ideas that we wouldn't have because you're interacting with young people and it's great.
Oh yeah, I mean, a student came to the last class that I had last semester and was like, "Oh, I want to talk about vertical videos with short form stories." I was like, "I have no idea what you're talking
What are
about,
those words together?
but please say so much more so I can actually catch up." And, it's inspiring a story that we're now working on here at Ministry. And yeah, my students have a totally different set of places they go to be entertained and ways that they find themselves immersed in culture. And there's tons of overlap, and there are lots of shows and movies that they care about that I care about too. And there's lots of stuff that I learn about because they care about it. And, it keeps me a little bit young and also gives me so much insight that I otherwise really wouldn't get to have into, well, how do young people connect with culture? What is appealing to them about it? What do they hope that it's going to be? What do they hope that they can accomplish within it?
What was your relationship to pop culture as a kid?
I really loved it. I watched way, way, way too much television as a kid, which is probably true for many of us who now do work like this. I was definitely that kid who finished my homework and then watched TV for, 3 hours every day. Um, and, by the time I was a teenager, I got really passionate and excited about movies and wanted to learn about movie history. And I, spent a summer going to the video store every day, checking out movies, watching them, bringing them back, checking out more movies, just really kind of immersing myself in film history and doing it all backwards and wrong and not knowing, what I was supposed to watch and watching lots of less important or less interesting stuff, but sort of fumbling my way towards discovering what was out there. And I don't think at the time I knew that I wanted to make this a career. I knew I was interested in writing and that it was something that I enjoyed doing. But I think I always found culture to be kind of a lodestone for me of ways to learn about, well, what make people tick, what moves people and makes people interested in the world. And yeah, that's never really gone away from me.
And when did it occur to you that this was a job that you could have writing about pop culture?
Yeah, so when I was in college, I ended up reaching out to some film magazines and asking them, hey, can I do some writing for you? I'll review or write about anything. Just let me know. And a magazine out of Canada, actually, heated rivalry connection, um, called CinemaScope responded to me and
Oh.
said, "Yeah, if you want to go to the New York Film Festival, we'll get you a ticket to go see some movies." So they sent me to cover two movies from Iran that were playing at the New York Film Festival in 2000, and I loved them both and got to write short reviews of them. And this is such a bygone era, but being able to, a few months later, get a magazine in the mail and open it up and see a review that lowly college student had written and know that other people might be looking at it as well was such an enormous, unbelievable thrill. And that just kind of set me on this path.
Did you ever have a non-pop culture writing or journalism job?
Not really. When I first finished school, I I started off at one job, which I basically immediately got fired from, which is a whole other longer story. And then I ended up just doing a bunch of gigs. Like I wanted
Okay.
to make enough money so that I could keep doing my writing. And so I ended up doing hilarious stuff. Like I had friends who were management consultants, and there was always a need for just like extra bodies on management consulting work. So I got brought in to help create a new org chart for Pfizer, which is obviously something that I am especially
Yes,
gifted at doing.
makes sense.
So I worked on that for months. Super unclear why they would want anyone like me within 100 miles of that, but it helped pay the bills while I was figuring out how to reach out to editors and pitch stories and all of that. And so yeah, I was grateful to get to have that opportunity.
Do you feel like was there a point, because I think you were always freelance basically, right? You were not
Always
on
great.
staff somewhere.
Yeah.
That's so fascinating to me. So instead of asking about that, I'll ask you about kind of like, do you feel like there was like a breakthrough gig for you where you were like, oh, this is happening, I'm doing this?
I do a little bit. Yeah, I had, the best piece of advice that I got, which I've now repeated to hundreds of students at this point, was from someone that I knew from college who was a few years ahead of me, who'd also gone into writing kind of briefly as a stepping stone to other things. And he told me, okay, make two lists of publications you're interested in. One is a list of publications that you think might publish you today as someone who has no clips. And the other one is the places you're aiming for, that they're not
Hmm.
going to publish you now, but maybe in the future you'll get there. And so one of the places on that second list for me was the Boston Globe. I always liked it. I always knew good things about it, had great cultural coverage, at least at the time. And so, I ended up in the first few years after school pitching them like, 20 or 30 times where they said no. And so having the moment where they finally agreed to let me review a book
Mm.
was amazing. And then the day after it came out, it was a book about iPods, just to sort of set the time frame that we're talking about.
This is a period
Um,
piece.
yes, uh, I got an email from another editor at the Globe who saw that and asked me if I wanted to write about music for them.
Oh,
And so that was a real thrill and felt like, okay. I feel like I've made it. I feel like I've sort of ascended to a place where, okay, there's at least going to be some more work following
right,
up.
right. Um, and it has been kind of your full-time job since, right? I mean, you're kind of piecing this together.
Yeah, and like we've talked about, the marker of being a successful writer is less about how much money you make or how much hoopla there is around you, and more about are you able to get to the next day, right? Like,
Yep.
are you able to keep going so you can write the next thing that you want to write? And so I think what I found and what all of us have found is that we all have different gigs, different additional work that we do to kind of keep this going. So for me, it's the teaching, which has been, felt really lucky to get to have that. And the pieces all kind of tie together. But yeah, like I feel lucky to not have had an office job that I've had to report to. I feel lucky that I've been able to kind of do things the way that I want. And, there's lots of uncertainty that goes with that, obviously. But yeah, on the whole, it's been a good way to go around it.
And you kind of gave some advice, but I will ask you for parting advice slash, what do you think it takes to kind of be a pop culture writer full time?
I think the main thing that I usually try to advise students about is to be patient. I think very understandably, and all for reasons that I personally remember having gone through, by the time you're finishing college, you're just like, all right, like let me at the world. I'm gonna like get everything accomplished right away, and it's all gonna happen for me in an instant. And that's great. And it's such a great attitude to have. And also, and maybe especially in the world of writing, things happen slowly. They happen really slowly. And so I always try to tell students like it's good to have an opening plan and then also kind of wrap your head around the notion that it's going to take much longer than you hope for. And so rather than say, okay, if I'm not here in 1 year's time, I'm a failure, tell yourself like, let me check in 5 years and see how I'm
Hmm.
doing. And so, I think just it's very hard to be patient. I struggle with being patient. Uh, we all want to accomplish the things we want to accomplish right away, but like there's a real distinction between writing and the kinds of professions that other students I teach are going into. If they're going to law school, if they're going to medical school, if they're going into business, there's such a clearly laid out path, right? Like if you're in law school, you know exactly what you're supposed to do at every step of the way. And you also know exactly how you measure up to every other student. Like it's just part of how it works. And writing doesn't work like that. And
No.
any creative profession, it doesn't really work like that. And so, you know, whatever you need to do to kind of get through the day in order to stay in the business, in order to like stay at it so you can get better, right? Like again, like I think a big distinction between writing and, becoming a doctor or something like that is like writing's not hard and you don't need any specialized skills. You could be a writer without any experience. The only
Shh, we're
thing,
not supposed to tell anyone.
sorry, but I mean the thing that writing that sticking with it does is you get better over time. Just the more writing you do, the better you get at it. The faster you are at it, the easier it is for you to like write something worthwhile in a relatively short period of time or write something really good with a longer time frame. And so I find with my students, they want to figure out how to keep writing after school. And it's totally doable, but also you have to be self-sufficient, right?
Yeah.
Like as soon as there's a day that comes where there's no professor who's like, hey, where's your essay? Can you send it to me? Like it becomes very challenging to keep at it. And so I think one of the most important things that people who are interested in entering the sphere of writing can do is just create a writing practice for yourself, right? Whether it's carving out a few hours a day or a few hours a week to write, whether it's telling yourself, okay, I'm not getting up from my desk until I've written 500, 1,000, 1,500 words or whatever. Like that is really how the sausage gets made.
Great. Well, thank you very much for sharing your journey with us.
Thanks.